Hey everyone, welcome back. Doc again here to talk to you about new command, or not a new commander, but another Tier 1 commander, Dwalin. I use him in both of my accounts, but really on my account going into Season 4 that's in Bag In. I do have him set in here, right here, so you guys can take a look at him. We're going to talk about his traits and what I use him for, but as you can see, I have him respect level 12. And I started him out from the beginning, so we can talk about how I set him up, what he's best used for, and you know how I've been really successful with him in the past. So I guess the number one thing that I do want to talk about with him, and specifically him, is I spent quite a few times resetting his traits, and that's partly because every time that you have a new respect order trait come in for him, you know, I need to make sure that his traits are all in the correct point order. The correct point order is critically important for him because that maximizes his damage, and it's really important because of really that all-in skill makes a big difference based off of it reduces the next damage. So let's start from the beginning. The first thing that I'm going to recommend is Experienced Warrior. To put some points into that. Now, mind you, I wouldn't put as many points that I put into that this time right now on a normal R5. This is maybe I would put 2 or 3 points into it to get it going, but I'm actually going to bring this up because I'm an R12. I'm going to bring this right up to like 9 points. And that's because I partially did the calculations of exactly how many points I need. The next thing that I'm going to be putting points into is Hunt Down. Hunt Down is just a standard damage dealt increase, and it's based off your might. It lasts for 2 rounds. It stacks a couple times. It's really important. Once you get your at least 1 point into Hunt Down, I don't think that, in my experience, I put any more points in that. I jump right into Durance Blood. Durance Blood is where a bulk of your point increase comes from, is this R3 tier level. So Durance Blood, that's the first thing I max right out. I take that right up to 15. I think that's extremely important to do. It's got an additional might that comes into 15. Your skill damage is up 35%. It's a really big piece. Then the next thing you're going to be doing is Whirlwind. Whirlwind is where most of your damage that you deal during the fight comes from. You're going to max that out. You know, get your 7 points right there in Whirlwind. If I was to play this early, start this as one of my starting commanders starting the season, I would probably go for this kind of setup and then maybe look at put a point in the Musician as well. Just so I can, or a couple points of Musician and a point into the random debuff removal. I think that's a cool piece. But since we're talking about this as an our level 50 and a higher respect Dwalin, we're going to jump right into the next thing. So I guess this is where it kind of stops. So your next piece is All In. This is that one critically piece where it talks about reduces the next damage dealt. I have 36 skill points left, as you can see here. It's a fine time because there's not a lot of damage stuff that I'm going to be putting out. You can go ahead and max this out, and that'll get you to the 7 there. And then from there, I jump right into this one and max this one out. This is just pure physical damage reduced, which is critically awesome, but the most important part is not actually that. It's actually the burn damage reduced minus 50%. That's a big piece because the Witch Kings, the Alchemists that you fight, those are the most evil commanders that you fight use Alchemists, and Alchemists are fire damage. So it reduces the burn damage, increases your survivability, makes a big difference. And then you're going to want to come over here right up to this physical damage, targets defense. Basically, you're taking away that defense. That's really good, especially against high defense people such as like Guardians. If you're going up against Guardians, it reduces their defense. You know, if somebody happens to be using an int, I guess, it would reduce their defense. I think that's a big piece. So I have 7 points left, as you can see here. One of the next things that I put into is Musician. I put into a couple points in the Musician, and then boom, right here is really important. One random debuff. It removes one random debuff and recovers 17.1% HP. I'm not really worried about the heal as much as the 1 random debuff removal. Additional points into this category are really not necessary because 1 point gets you that cleanse that you need, which is critically important. This other skill is just a pure healing skill. You know, you can use it during PvE if you choose. My recommendation would be don't use it. Damage is king. I personally prefer to go with more glass cannon builds than I do healing builds. Just a personal preference. As you see, I have 4 additional points. The last thing I'd be putting into is collaboration, which just adds additional attack, and that's kind of where that is my standard build. You know, if you look at the Forge and you look at what other people use for builds on Dwalin, you know, this is a pretty standard build that some people use. It's actually a little bit of a combination. It's got a lot of burn damage, but it's also got a kind of a glass cannon build, and it's, you know, high damage, but still protects you from the evil, the Witch Kings. I feel like, you know, most of the time we spend as good, on the good side, we spend a lot of time defending from the 8,000 Witch Kings that everybody seems to have. So this is kind of my build. If I was going to make some changes on it along the way, and I wanted to, you know, maybe we're having a hard time with mums, we're fighting a lot of mums, and, you know, we have to kind of counter a little bit of that. The points I would take out of is this experienced warrior and this collaboration first, and then you could add to the giant slayer category and get some extra damage against the large units, which is helpful. If you choose not to go down that path, you know, I don't, especially with the most recent cost nerf to mums, you know, you don't see them as often unless somebody has a really long time to build up some gold and use it. So, but right now, Season 4, I don't expect that to be an issue right away, so I'm going to avoid using that. So I'm going to go right into his equipment and what I use. It's not necessarily perfect by any means, but it is what I use. So obviously, as you can see, I have his unique twin axes. They're great. They work really well. You know, what those do is they give you the standard might, the speed, and attack on dwarves. So since I have the attack on dwarves, I always try to make sure I include dwarves in my build with my units that I'm using. Normal attacks have a 20% chance of damage dealt, up 33%, and that increases. So when you refine this, you know, it's going to go up to 50% once I get to the next star, and so on and so forth. So that's a really nice weapon, and it does work really well. Additional weapons, obviously, if you don't have the unique, you can look at using a battle axe or a carver. I have a battle axe here. This has got flay. That's exactly what I would use. It's the allied commander. Physical damage ignores 20% of defense. You know, it takes away that defense. I think it's a really nice trait. You do have to be careful though, that you're not, and you just got to look at your logs and make sure that you're not taking away all that. You know, if you're going to eventually have diminishing returns if you take away so much defense. So if it's not having as much of a gain, you may want to looking at like switching to something like I don't know if I have a pierce here. I might. No, I don't have a pierce on, or cleave. You know, you could consider doing a melee might. You know, that would be beneficial potentially. Might of Dwarves, the hammer of Moria is also a good weapon that you could use. So, you know, there's some good things out there that are beneficial. Let me actually go into the weapons here. Oops. Go to the weapons and take a look at what else there is. Right here, over here. So melee might, that's that allied melee units damage increase 1.5%, max that out 9%. You know, that would be something, especially if you're going with that higher trait that's an R5 trait, you may consider using melee might. That could be something that works a little bit better. So just something to think about when you're setting up your commander. You know, a lot of your traits you need to consider. They might be great on one person, but they're not as great on another. You have to consider your gear, the traits that you chose, and kind of go from there. So his chest, I have the massive breastplate, as this chest because, you know, it has the might stack up to 5 stacks, so it's 10 extra might plus 16. And really why I like it is because the defense, the army defense is up 20, and the army defense of the large unit is up another 10. So again, I primarily use Dwalin I seek out Witch Kings. It's like my favorite thing to do is take my little Dwalin and destroy Witch Kings. And most of them run Trolls and Alchemists, and it loves to, you know, that burn damage reduction, plus you have the defense against large unit, plus you just got the overall defense. It does really well. So it's something to think about. Some other chests that you can consider is scale mail. Right here's the scale mail. This one I think has Gallant, which is might, which is okay. I would probably recommend melee vigor. Again, that would be a little more melee damage. You know, you could also do, I think it's called the superior hauberk, which is the fire protection. That's really good. But again, diminishing returns. We already have 50% fire reduction. What's more? I mean, I think that is 30%. That's 80% fire reduction. Plus you run guardians. That's even more fire reduction. Basically, you wouldn't be receiving any damage from alchemists. So, you know, what are the true gains? If you're running guardians, I don't know if you really need that. I would probably look at doing melee vigor or something of that, something different. Maybe Durance plate with some tactical maneuvers, or even something with a little bit of focus protection. I think is also gives you a little bit of variety, just in case you have a Galadriel that you go up against. So we'll go ahead to the head. I currently have the iron bassinet. It's again might, dwarves, defense, so a lot of defense, and then also it's got the stun immunity. Stun immunity is great, especially going up against a lot of these commanders. You go up against Gandalf or something like that, you're getting a lot of stuns. It's really a really nice part. You could also do a horseman helm if you wanted to. This one's got resolve. It's madness immunity. Obviously, madness immunity is really beneficial. You could do I don't know if this is a armor cask. Full helm. You could do a full helm. You know, I think this one has melee vigor, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look to see if I go back to my pack. Pretty sure this one has. Yep, it does right there. That damage reduction for melee units, 6%. That could be really nice. Again, that's, you know, just creating survivability. So anytime that you deal with a lot of the dwarf commanders, Gimli, Dane, Dwalin even, you are trying to keep your soldiers' whole entire role is to stay alive and let your commander do the damage. So when you're considering setting up your commander, you're looking for that high defense, and that's really how I have my mindset. That's why I have defense pretty much on everything. I look at stun immunity, really try to focus in on that. Accessory, you know, pretty straightforward. You can do the rope here. It's got might, focus, HP. It's got a nice little heal. That works well. You could even do a fiddle. I don't know if I would do necessarily the fiddle, just because of the speed and the focus. You could do drums, a Moria. I don't have a drums, but that's got some. You can do haste of soldiers on that. Night Star would be something that works well. I don't know. Yep, Night Star would be right here. That one. You can do Tactical Mark, which is has the anti-evasion trait on it. Let me go pull up that. That's actually one of my favorite accessories here. Right here, Tactical Mark Pursuit. So you go into Pursuit, and you gain, so basically you gain Pursuit for 3 rounds, and then 30% to cause maximum damage each round. I really like that. It's probably one of my favorite accessories in the game. So, you know, every commander, if I had a choice, I'd probably put it on everything. So, let's see here. Let's go back to him. That's pretty much where I would kind of go. But again, you're focusing on the same thing. Might, heals, you know, creating that survivability. So, with that all being said, that's kind of where we sit with him. The next thing I want to talk about is, how you're setting up your army with him. What I do is I'm going to come in here to, I think the red book, I can still set up an army in here. Right here. Yeah, so right here is an army. One of the first things that I do with him, and because if you remember, I have a lot of dwarf defense, so I always, where's it at? Grab the guardians. There's a lot of stuff in here, right here. So I pull the guardian in, throw him in there, probably around 2,500 of them, and then you're going to look at setting up for what you're fighting. You could do some more dwarves. You could run a full dwarf build, which has got ram riders, and that's got the debuff for the defense, which is, again, you run a diminishing returns over time. If you have everybody's debuffing defense, there's a certain point that it's not really advantageous. Do master throwers with that. Oh, it appears that it may have. There we go. Master throwers. So we're going to build this up a little bit how I would probably have it set up. I have to go about 2,000, like about 1,000. And from here, it's not cooperating. You can't really see the full build because this is only, you don't get your ring traits, so you only got 50, but this would normally be a couple thousand over here of your, I like to go about 2,500 guardians, normally about 1,000 ram riders, and the rest of them master throwers. The other thing I like to use a lot, I don't use as many master throwers as on some of my other characters, so what I typically do is I replace them with bow knights, and I use a lot of bow knights pretty much on everything. So instead of running the master throwers, I run bow knights. Again, really useful. The other thing that you consider is going full defense, and you could even run guards, rams, cataphracts, or you could run full cavalry and you need some speed. You could run rams, cataphracts, and bow knights. Those all would be beneficial. But I have such a high increase on the dwarves defense that it's really hard for me not to. I have 2 increase on dwarves. I have 16 increase on dwarves defense there. It's really hard for me not to use dwarves, at least for my frontline defensive units. So just something to think about. A lot of times people try to reproduce and recreate what they're seeing is working that other people are doing, without considering what gear that they have and how that gear is stacking off the commanders they're using and or the units they're using. So what I would say is always pair everything together. You want the synergy between your allocation, your configuration of your points. You need the synergy between your gear, and then also the synergy between your units. You do all 3 of those things, and you're going to have much more success, even at a low respect level, even at a low, a low unit. Let's say you're leveling and you only have tier 2 units. That synergy makes a difference, especially early on in the season. You're going into like season 2 or season 3. One of the first things you're focusing on is getting to level 50 quickly, and having these kind of boosts where it's increasing your defense, it's increasing your attack. Those things will help you save units, will help your survivability long term. You will have more success, and you'll get to level 50 quicker. So that's basically the summary for Dwalin. Happy to answer more questions on him. Again, that's my build right there that I'm going to use, and I hope I have as much success with him going into season 4 in the next few days as I've had in other seasons. And yeah, so I welcome if you all please subscribe and like my videos. I really appreciate it, and it will help build my channel. So thanks again. I appreciate any questions, and we'll go from there. Thanks. I'll see you next time. All right. Bye-bye.